other backers. It began to mesh, greatly increased in its distribution of the idea by Hal's writings. And the result was stopping the freeway. This was the great freeway revolution. And it is extremely significant. It happened here. It failed in Los Angeles. It failed in the Santa Clara Valley, which was taken over by urbanization and now by industrial digital development. It's gone. And yet, these women and other individuals were able to stop the freeway expansion, stop the Embarcadero Freeway at Washington Avenue. Ultimately, we were saved by the earthquake of '89, one of the best things that ever happened in San Francisco. It cleared out that area, and San Francisco rose like a flower, getting rid of the excrement of some of these structures. And Point Reyes was saved. Not just by Phil Burton, but by one person who was watching and guarding Bolinas Bay and realized that something basic had to be done. This grew into a Point Reyes saving enterprise that worked collectively, increasing its power. Ultimately, we have one of the greatest natural reserve areas anywhere. We have the seashore area, we have the Point Reyes National Monument, or became a national park. That whole, we have all the public space now. We voted over and over again to free up or to prevent industrial and commercial development. And look around the hills of the North Bay. Look at Marin County. Look at the Oakland system of parks. And to the enterprise and fierce dedication of a few people. One of those is Harold Gilliam. And his activity has been instrumental, though he won't admit it, to saving the Bay. Not just the Bay, but the entire region. And we now serve as an example throughout the nation and internationally as well of what local action can do in saving the environment. So maybe this is a positive note that something can be done to arrest or at least slow down climate warming. What can be done in terms of what Hal has spoken of is sort of peripheral but necessary. But fundamentally, we have to control CO2 industrial production, and we have to make some kind of preparatory planning for the inevitable rising of the waters. It's too late to stop it in its entirety, but we must learn enough to be able to put some brakes on the growth. One of my questions to Hal is, how can we stop the flat earthers who claim there is no such thing, including, unfortunately, much of the Republican-dominated House of Representatives, which has turned back dozens of years of progress already, unless they're stopped at the Senate and the presidential level. So we have a real battle ahead to at least broadcast the idea, demonstrate the scientific veracity of what has been spoken of as an inevitable climate change, and what are you going to do about it? Some things we can do, some we cannot. Recognize what we can do and go for it. What can we do?
You know, I've known you for about 50 years. And I think I've known you long enough so that we'll still be friends after I say you were wrong. I didn't cause all these things to happen. I was simply reporting. And what the activists were doing. And I think is very encouraging what they were doing. But what was your question about what do we do next?
How do we control right now, the anti-scientific fervor of what's equivalent to the know-nothings of earlier political eras, and get us in concert at least to recognize the problem? I mean, we have not only the Holocaust deniers, but we have the warming deniers. We have all those who claim that all we have to do is sit back and enjoy or promote what we're doing now. Our grandkids, to hell with them. This is the attitude.
You're expecting an answer from me?
I mean, that's what we're all facing. And I'm encouraged by the fact that a small number of dedicated people can make a difference. This has been proven, and we are not the exemplars, but the benefitors of this, beneficiaries.
I can give you an example of how public opinion has changed drastically in relation to tobacco, in relation to smoking, and how the deniers were quite effective for a long period of time because there was a lot of money behind them, namely the tobacco industry. The tobacco industry leaders knew well that tobacco causes cancer and various other ailments, but they kept it to themselves for a long period of time. It was only after the realization came out among the public that they better stop smoking that the whole situation changed. So I've seen the know-nothings. Now I've got to add that what you call the know-nothings were largely financed by the tobacco companies. In fact, there was a scientist named Frederick Seitz, C-I-T-Z, who had been president of the AAAS, Association for the Advancement of Science, for a long period of time, who was doing a public relations job and earning quite a bit of money from the tobacco companies, in addition to the salary he was getting as president of Rockefeller University. Interestingly, that Rockefeller would be involved in this whole thing because he started the oil industry here, of course. But the same man is now saying that global warming is a hoax and is being paid by the oil companies. He's been called the $45 million man. There's documentary evidence of a certain R.J. Reynolds hiring him for $400 and some thousand to carry on his studies.
That's scientific prostitution.
Well, this is the media are at fault here for reporting both sides. They should report both sides, but point out that 99% of the climatologists feel one way, global warming is valid, and a few people, some of whom are being paid by the oil industry, feel another way. But instead, they're simply reported as two extremes of the same point of view. So I think that we need some media reform as well as other aspects of public opinion that need to be affected by it.
One of the problems is science. Science, by its basic definition, works on whatever they can, whatever the individual can deduce from his environmental studies, his experimentation, and invariably, however strong the opinion may be in one direction, there will be variants holding up different views. The opportunists who use that to say, look, these people can't make up their minds, so both sides are equally true, and we'll do the same thing whether it be anti-creation, pro-creationism as opposed to evolution, whether it be the cancer-inducing nature of nicotine or the danger of mal-manufactured automobiles until Ralph Nader shows up. All of these things can be used in an opportunistic and totally erroneous fashion and get away with it. So as long as we say, yes, the general view is in one side or the other in the scientific purview, not the anti-science views, then that is an appropriate way of coming to a decision. But if people say, if the scientists can't agree, then the system is wrong, here you go into a real problem. And whether it's the so-called flat earthers or others who say, okay, they're arguing, let them argue about how much CO2 is needed, what levels will cause certain changes, but it's clear that they're just bumbling around and it's not true. And so they take a non-scientific judgment which fits their needs, usually with big money behind it. And that buys up scientists like Seitz or others. It can do anything. And when we see now what the Koch brothers, worth, what, $50 billion, can do when they buy up the electorate, as they did, spending $300 million last November, and wiped out many of the environmental gains, hard-won over the years. This is what we're struggling against. And I'm not going to throw it all in your hands to take care of it. And you didn't personally do the work, but if you had not reported it, much of it wouldn't have happened. We talk about the media.
All right, I don't want to hear the folks now. Let's hear your response and your feeling.
Use a mic.
Well, this is a response out of ignorance. I'm chairing a conference. I just accepted an abstract by two noted engineers, and they looked at this climate change and temperature change data again. So they separated all the data from urban areas and non-urban areas. And they went back to all the data that's used by NOAA and all the people. And their paper presented, their abstract, a paper they're going to present, says that actually the urban areas are increasing in temperature. The non-urban areas, rural areas, appear to be not increasing. They're concerned about whether their data is truthful or not. But it's a very interesting issue, and I wonder, would you discuss that issue?
Well, one of the main arguments stating that warming of the atmosphere and climate change is occurring is the CO2 level in the atmosphere, which when it exceeds